All right, so this is Kari, and this evening Cheryl did the Creative Memories project recipe, Grateful Harvest, for us traditionally. And we had some great layouts created, and we have some other people who weren't able to join us who I know are going to also do some great layouts. But I thought I would jump on and do the digital version of this. Unfortunately, I didn't quite have enough time to finish my digital sample, so I won't really get that on the recording, but I'll at least walk through how to create this project recipe and give you a few tips for how to kind of make it your own. So this is the layout that Creative Memories provided us. So there's a sample layout here at the top of the page, and then they give us a sketch so you can kind of see dimensions and which pieces are which. And there's some instructions which are really applicable if you're doing traditional, but there's sometimes things that are very helpful. And then on the back side of the paper, they give us a cutting guide. And so what I tend to do is I utilize this cutting guide to help me figure out how my page is going to go together and what all those dimensions are. So I start out doing it with the colors or similar colors to what they have here on this page. That just kind of helps me keep it straight as I'm putting all of my pieces down, and then I go back in and I fill them in with my photos and I fill in the papers with whatever I'm going to utilize. So like I tend to start out, if you've watched any of my videos in the past, I like to look at the 2 pages and give myself an idea of, do I want to create one page and duplicate it? Do I want to create one page and mirror image it? Or do I just want to do the 2 pages completely independently? And so I kind of take a quick look at that. So when I'm looking at this page, they're really not mirror images and they're really not duplicates, but they're similar enough that what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the left page and then I'm going to duplicate it. And part of the reason I'm going to duplicate that is because I think that with these items that are running across the 2 pages and the fact that I have the same size photo mat, I've got this half circle, I've got this other rectangle, which actually happens to be a tag. I can always make some adjustments to add the other couple of items that need to be on the right page. So that's how I like to take a look at things and get things started. So because I am going to, I've grabbed my other thing. Now I'm going to go into Artisan, and hopefully you are seeing my Artisan screen. Yes. So I am going to just paste the layout here on the side because I want to just grab the colors. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a background to the page. For those of you who've done this with me before, we have learned that when you use Artisan, if you start lowering the opacity of the background, which sometimes we want to do, you start getting this checkerboard. So I like, and that tells you that you've lowered the opacity on the background. That doesn't show up on any of the other pieces of paper. So I like to put just a plain white piece of paper on the background so that if I do end up deciding to lower the opacity as I'm actually designing my page, I can do that. So there's a number of ways to do everything in Artisan, and I'm going to just do one of them right now to put this on the center of my page. So I'm going to go up to this area that we call the quick access toolbar, set the X to 0, the Y to 0, and the width is already 12 and the height is 12. So that's basically my background. Then I'm going to start cutting those individual paper strips. So the first one was a 3 by 12. And I am going to sample my color from that little snip that I took. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to go up to my X and my Y and put it at the 0, 0. So that's all the way up in my upper right-hand corner. Now you can see my layout here, a little snip of it here. I'm going to make that little orange-ish strip. And this one was 2.5 by 12. And again, my solid color, I'm going to fill it. I'm going to just go ahead and sample it. Even though I have it in my color palette, I could do that. Now I'm going to actually just pick it up and grab it and move it up here. And you can see I've got these purple alignment helpers that tell me where I'm exactly dropping it. So that helps me if I don't want to use the quick access toolbar up here and put in numbers, I can actually just pick it up and grab it. So then the next thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and make these horizontal ones. So I am actually going to do another rectangle. I'm going to do, I think these were 7. There's 7 by 2.5. And that is that pink, peachy color. And this one was on the bottom. So now you can see that when I drag that down here, that it's overlapping this, which was not the case on the original sample. So I'm going to grab it from the Elements panel and just drag it below the orange colored strip. And now you see it was as if it was layered, and this was the first thing that I put down. So even though I actually put it on my digital layout first, I could actually just go in and make an adjustment after that. Then I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to do the next one. This one is going to be 7 by 2. And this one is going to be that orangey color. Now, in the Creative Memories layout, this was a border punch, but I don't have to use a border punch. I can do something else later, but I'll show you a couple of potential options for that. So again, even though you can't see it here, I do want to drag it down because depending on what my paper choices are, I don't want this one to be seen above here. Now, why is it 7 inches in the design? I am honestly not sure, but that's what they went with, so I'm going to just go with that. So then we have this, let's see this, we've got this semicircle and some photo mats, and then we've got this rectangle. So I'm going to go ahead and do the circle. So with this one, I'm going to insert shape ellipse, and it was a 5 by 5 circle, which I know from the fact that we did it traditionally earlier. I'm going to go ahead and sample it so it's that same green color. That will just make my life easier when I'm moving things around. And then they cut it in half using the Creative Memories trimmer. So I'm going to digitally cut it in half. Now I could have done this. I could have just made a half circle to begin with, but I find it just as easy to do it this way. So I'm going to go to Cut Cutters, Straight Edge. It says it has to be flattened. I want to keep both areas. And when it brings in the cutter, it automatically puts it in the center. So if you wanted to move it, you could move it. But since I do want it in the center, I'm going to go ahead and click cut. I don't know why I'm getting the error message, but this is the one that I'm going to end up wanting to use on this page. And it's going to be right about there. And then I have a small little rectangle that was this peachy color, and it was 1.5 by 2.5. Now, interesting thing about this was a tag, and I'll slide down this image here so you can kind of see this. This was a tag, and you can't really see it on their sketch right here. You can sort of see it. It's hard to tell on the cutting guide, but you can kind of see on their sample page that they definitely made a tag and they punched a hole there. So to do kind of a similar thing here, I can do the physical cutting off a little area and punching a hole if I wanted to. I'm actually not going to do that. I'm actually going to copy and paste it in a moment. I'll show you why. So I can actually go over to the content panel and go over to my common shapes. And there is this tag shape. So when I did this and I applied it to that rectangle, it shrunk it. So I was like, well, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it on top of the other one and then just widen it. And that worked. So that is one way that I could get it so it was still the right size. And there's a couple of ways to get the hole out, which I'll do in a moment. The other thing I could have done was, instead of doing the rectangle first and then cutting it out, I could have created this shape, and I could have put the size in as 1.5 by 2.5 and create, and you can see that is actually the same size. So that works also. So when you're cutting and you're going to try to remove that little hole, you could go up to Cutter's Shapes to perform a cut and select a circle. So I could do it very much like you would do it in traditional scrapbooking. And I'm going to put it in here, and I can use my alignment helpers to kind of see. It might actually be a little big. Oh, maybe not. And if I want the size to be exactly the same, I can use my size information. I don't know why I'm at 45 degrees. Okay, there we go. And if I want to keep, I need to always stop and think, do I want to keep the shaded area, the unshaded area, or both? I do want to keep the unshaded, and I'm going to go ahead and cut. So now I've got a piece that is a hole here. The other option is I can do shape, edit shape, and I can add an ellipse. And I can do the same kind of thing. You need to grab the right thing. No, cancel that. See, this is the way that I think it's a little harder. Okay. And get it positioned, and then I can remove it. And that didn't work. All right, so here we go. Shape, edit shape, add an ellipse. And my sister reminded me that if you grab the bottom square holding down your shift key, it stays nice and centered. Now I've got it, so I can go to blending and I can remove selected. There's a lot of blending tools here. This is not something that is my strength, so maybe that should be a new resolution for me to get better with all the different blending, but I don't use them often. So then you remove selected and you've got that. So those are two different ways of doing that tag, and whichever way you do it, it's going to be awesome. And if you don't use the tag and you just make it a rectangle, that's also good too. All right, so I'm going to move. I don't need that. I am going to go ahead and start adding my rectangles for my photo mats. So I need a 6x4, and it was blue, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, create. I'm going to add a frame for a photo. So this one is 5.5 by 3.5. And then by selecting the two of them at the same time by holding my shift key, and I go to the alignment helpers here on the quick access toolbar. So by selecting the second and the fifth, I end up getting them all aligned. So I'm going to group them together because I'm going to be copying and pasting them. So I'm going to copy and paste. And then I'm going to copy, or I can already just paste. I'm going to go ahead and ungroup it because I'm going to change the size. So the back one, I want it to be 4. And then this one, I believe, is 3.5. And they are together. So I know I have this extra thing, and that's okay. And this, in essence, is the base of the layout. Now they tilt this and put it kind of like this. You can kind of move your photos around how you want them. And then they did some cutting here. I'm going to come back and cut in a moment. I'm just going to get that layout done. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate the page because it's fairly easy to just go ahead and move things around and accommodate it all. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. This one I'm going to put across the page. So I'm going to go ahead and start it at 0. And this one's now going to be 12. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. Make it at 0. Make it at 12. I'm going to get rid of that one. Move that one over here. Don't need that one. Then I needed one that was going to be 12 inches wide and 6 inches high up in the upper corner. And this I need to rotate. So this one ended up down here. This one ended up here. And it was kind of tucked behind. And then I have 3 photos, so I'm going to go ahead and just do one, and then I'll copy and paste it. So 3.5 by 5.5. Do the first one, copy and paste again. Get them up. And I like to select all of them and make certain that they're aligned on the middle point. And then I can select the other item here that says reposition the selected elements so they're evenly spaced horizontally. So now the spacing between them will be the same. I like to then group them and then hold down the shift key to try to get it aligned on the mat. And I aligned them both horizontally and vertically, and now I can ungroup everything. And I think this is kind of was down a little ways, kind of like that. And so now I'm going to go into 2-page view if it will let me. And I'm going to just kind of nudge down my layout here so you can kind of see. So you can see that I've pretty much got everything laid out. The one thing I haven't done is this border punch, because I think that depends on what you're going to do, whether you're going to use a punch or whether you're going to use a sticker. And yes, my pages are out of a line arrangement. Now I've got them in the right order. It will depend on what you're going to do, whether you want to actually just use a digital, like a border sticker type of thing, or whether you're going to cut it. It all depends on what your layout is. So there's a lot of options. So I'm just going to take this one on this page, and I'm just going to bring it on up to the top so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to go back to my page. And you can do so, Artisan is so versatile, it kind of depends on what you want to do. We could do a cut, using the straight cutter, cut cutters straight and then a shaped edge. And this is one that I think is really versatile because you can not only change what shape you're cutting, because we have a library of shapes, but there's also extra shapes. So if I wanted to do flowers or apples or hearts or something else, I could do that. So I am going to actually I'm going to do paw prints because I'm doing some pictures of my dogs. So the interesting thing about this is that I can set up these paw prints and I can make them as small or as large as I want. But in addition, I can change the spacing. So if I wanted them to be spaced out a little bit more, I can adjust that. And I could change the angle. So if I didn't want it to be like a straight line and I wanted it to be something diagonally going across my page, I could do that. So there are so many options, which I think, gives you just almost limitless possibilities, which is usually a good thing. Sometimes it's hard to make a decision when you've got too many possibilities. So one thing when you're doing this, when you cut it, you want to kind of think about, what do you want to be left with? If you just want to be left with paws, with these paw prints, you really want to be sure that you're cutting here kind of close to the bottom edge. Otherwise, I'm going to be cutting and leave all of this. So I'm going to cut, I'm going to keep both areas just so you can see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to cut. Okay, and you can't tell the difference, but when I get rid of it, I've got the holes there. And then this is the other part that I'm left with. So you can see I've got the paws along a white, or along that strip, which I could do another cut and remove that and cut that off, which I'll just show you how to do right now in case you ended up doing that. I can bring that down. And if I zoom in, I will probably get a better cut. I want to keep the shaded and cut. So now, yeah, I probably should have zoomed in, just like I said. So again, there's a lot of possibilities and a lot of opportunities for what you're going to cut. And now I'm left with a clean set of paw prints to kind of go across my page. At this point, if I wanted to, decided, really I want more of them and I want maybe two sets in different colors, I could copy and paste them. I could stagger them. I could have another set of paw prints here, and I could just fill this with a different color. So, and ultimately, I'm going to go ahead and slide these back down, and they're going to be below that one. And I could copy and paste those onto my other page, which if I am showing both pages at the same time, this is actually very easy to do. So I'm going to take both of these and I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste and I'm going to grab them and I'm just going to drop them. I'm going to drop them up here so you can see. And now they're on the other page. So I didn't actually have to go through the process of cutting and making certain it was the same size. So that's one option of what you're going to cut. Again, if you don't have a shape in your kit that you really like, you can actually create shapes. You can use a shape from another digital art kit. Pixels to Pages has a lot of information about how to do that. But I think that shows pretty much how to do everything that I really needed to show for this. I'm just going to hide that. And I did not get finished doing my layout because I was too busy trying to moderate and do other things. So all I did was get my dog photos on my pages, and I haven't started picking papers, but I'll show you what I've got. But now all I have to do is fill in the papers with what I want, maybe add some journaling. I think I'm actually going to copy those paw prints. Are they still in the paste buffer? Oh, yes, they are. So I'm going to copy those paw prints again from the other page and just put them in here. And I will utilize those paw prints that I created on the sample. And I think that'll work. So I think Lynn is still on, and against my better judgment, I'm going to let her share her page. So go ahead. It's there. We pulled up photos of me at a young age going trick-or-treating. Oh, and then more recent photos of the gingerbread house. Not really, really recent, but nice.
Yeah, I didn't have enough Halloween photos, so I decided to add that in here. Now, I chose not to cut something here. I used a patterned paper that had pumpkins across the bottom, and then I used a blended cut to kind of, and it was a very narrow one, to kind of not make it a strict, sharp cut here.
Nice.
And then I'd had a photo here of just a pumpkin, but I then put a mask around it and made it down here as more of a decoration. So changed it up just a tad.
And is that witch on the broom up in the top, an embellishment? Yeah, that you just layered up on top of the circle. Yeah. Nice.
Yes.
Cute. Very cute. All right. Nothing like embarrassing photos. Thanks.
Cute.
So Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And I'm going to put the project recipe screen back up, especially because I didn't get my layout done. But we hope you appreciate seeing the software and how to take the Creative Memories project recipe and create it digitally. So thanks so much for watching. If you do end up creating a layout, we'd love to see it. You can post on our Consistently Creative Croppers Facebook group, and we put our sample layouts over there for people to see. We've also posted this project recipe, so you could grab the PDF if that would be helpful to you. You can always email us at consistentlycreativecrew@gmail.com. So thanks so much for watching, and we hope you enjoyed.